Live from the Talking Joe studios, it's Talking Joe.
Talking Joe weekly podcast. Talking Joe is there. Talking Joe thought we would last. Talking Joe is there. Find each other like a married couple. Our podcast on the air. Talking Joe is there.
Talking Joe is the code name for a completely untrained special podcast force. Its purpose, to produce a regular comic review show while breaking and replacing a series of presenters from across the world.
Talking Joe. Talking Joe is there. Talking Joe. We are on our soapbox. Nobody seems to care. Fighting for fandom wherever there's trouble. The podcast on the air. Talking Joe is there. Talking Joe. Talking Joe.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark, and welcome to Talking Joe, the best and longest running dedicated comics podcast that comes out on a Thursday. This is part 8 of our looks at the G.I. Joe Disavowed era. Today we are discussing issues 17 to 19, which is a 3-parter called The Cabal, which was from 2003. If you're new to the show, you can find out all the details over on our website, talkingjoe.co.uk. And without any further ado, let's introduce the co-hosts. It is, first up, American Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hi, Mark, and hello, listeners.
In that order, thank you, Tim. And rounding out our crew, it's G.I. Jay, Jay Cordray.
Hello, G.I. Joe fans.
Silence. Rude.
And Mark and Tim.
Nothing. You're getting nothing back.
I'm used to that.
So what to talk about this week? G.I. Jay is killing it on the YouTube videos. Loving the Yojo Cola ranking sort of section that you put in there. We've got a little tidy Yojo Cola can, our little faces and our comments. Love it. So if you're an audio only person, there we are putting out the YouTube videos at the same time, maybe slightly later than the audio episode. So there is another viewing option, and we're presenting lots of the visual content that we are talking about on the screen as well. So and interesting, particularly if you're not necessarily aware of all of the references, some good illumination going on there. So what's new, Jay?
Oh, I don't know, not a whole lot. We were talking about, got some new books in this week. Just been trying to get back into the swing of things with break room sketches. Did a couple of new sketches the last couple of weeks that were really well received by people, so that's encouraging.
Very good.
Hoping for some warmer weather this side of the pond, and,
and this side.
Yeah. So the world's moving along.
Yeah.
Got my Silent Interlude hardcover from I think it's called Original Comics. It's a French edition, which is fine since it's no words, and that's really nice to see that original artwork by Larry and Steve Lealoa. Really nice. Really nice package. Was really happy to finally get that in black and white.
Did you pick that up, Tim?
Not the French edition. I have the IDW hardcover from 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, is that just a representation of the IDW hardcover?
No, it's entirely black and white. Mark and I talked about this before the show started because he got it as well. It's interesting. It does not include the original cover, any version of that. And I said, well, maybe that was because Larry had nothing to do with that. I don't know whether I don't think that he even did layouts or anything for that. So it's really sparse as far as there's not really any extra content or anything in the book. Mm-hmm. It's just, you open it, there's your legal page, which is all in French. And then there's the black and white story. And that's it. So it's
Yeah.
really all you get, but it's really neat to see that artwork in black and white. And it's I mean, the printing is really good. Like I said, I've seen the pencils for it, but I don't think that I ever have seen the black and white inked,
Mhm. Yeah, and
artwork.
this isn't like an artist edition. It's not the
No.
art boards. It is from the black and white film or whatever it is that they've taken. So it is the identical artwork that is in that more recent that recent IDW edition, but just in mono in the
Yeah.
black and white lines, and at a slightly higher at a slightly larger size. So probably close to English A4 size, I think.
Real thick paper stock on that too. I was kind of surprised.
I wonder if IDW might publish something like this in a few months when that Snake Eyes movie is out, because certainly IDW will will have the excuse, and I mean that in a good way, to reprint some key Snake Eyes material, and then also on its own or with Hasbro's nudging will publish some new Snake Eyes material. I bet we'll have a Snake Eyes miniseries next year that's not related, that's not in the movie continuity. I bet there'll be something self-contained or something in the Real American Hero continuity.
They put out a
'cause,
paperback.
I mean, when the last movie came out, they or the last two movies, they sort of produced a number of things that were tie-ins, including a Snake Eyes series that was credited as co-written, I think, by Ray Park, who played Snake Eyes in the films, which was
And I
Very
think IDW had a lot of success with its Transformers live action movie adaptations, prequels, and sort of in between sequels. And I think there are, between the first two movies, I think there are 5 or 6 different miniseries. And if you really like those movies, those comics are very exciting. And I got the sense at the time that the graphic novels of those comics were selling well in like airport bookstores and some regular bookstores that aren't comic book stores. I have a guess, just a guess, that the Rise of Cobra and Retaliation tie-in G.I. Joe comic miniseries didn't sell as well.
Some of those were nice. I remember, I'm not sure if it was the ones that came out for Rise of Cobra, but they had artwork by S.L. Glant that was
that's right.
looked very different than what he ended up doing when he was on Real American Hero. It was more of a scratchy kind of style, but still very good. That was the first thing that I had seen by him that, at all. And it really impressed me how, his artwork.
Yeah, I suspect that they might have been working off of his pencils rather than.
Oh, really?
Probably,
That could be.
Yeah, and in the UK we got a GI Joe series from Panini, I believe, published it, which was all new content and not published over in the US, which included strips from John Royal on covers and interiors, and Kev Hopgood, who had previously done some Action Force work. He returned, and possibly Mike Collins as well. So yeah, that content is all over on the Blood for Baron website if you want to check it out. But yeah, quite an interesting curiosity, particularly on seeing the John Royal art, as given how his career progressed to become the G.I. Joe cover artist that he is now.
Well, several years ago, whenever IDW had got the G.I. Joe license, they put out a series of paperbacks called The Best Of, and one of them was The Best of Snake Eyes, and it had issue 21, 26, 27. I'm not sure what else. I know that it had like 144, I think. And but the big ones, I mean, for me were, and number 10. Maybe that was it. But the big ones that I liked being in there were 21, 26, and 27. And I always thought that they should do like a Snake Eyes package, and hopefully they will now, that kind of has all the highlights and includes those issues. They could leave that 144 out or whatever it was.
Yeah, well, IDW did just reprint issue 21, and it has reprinted Snake Eyes Origins as well. I believe, I'm guessing that was both issues.
What Mark's referring to is these double-sized 2-issue comic reprints that IDW's been doing. A couple weeks ago, they reprinted 49 and 50.
Serpentor Uncoiled.
Yeah, and then 2 months ago, it was Yearbook 1. So that this seems to be they're doing several, the 26 and 27, 21 plus what's 21B. I imagine we'll get a few more of those. I actually wonder though, how much IDW might push reprinting Real American Hero Snake Eyes material when the movie comes out, given that the movie is a very different take on the character. People understand, like there's an entire Spider-Man movie now about all the different versions of Spider-Man. So I think people understand, but I can also imagine an editor making a decision to push a little bit harder on either some sort of neutral Snake Eyes stories from some of the other continuities that have been published in comics, or some more new material where maybe it's technically the Real American Hero version, but he's not specifically taking his mask off, showing that he's a blonde white guy, and someone's specifically not talking about the Southeast Asian conflict.
I'm surprised we haven't seen any solicitations for movie tie-ins.
I think they're waiting because the movie
until it actually comes out.
The movie keeps delaying. Also, I think it's possible that they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, I think it was a while. What was one of the movies came out not too long ago? Oh, I know what it was that I'm thinking of. And it's not IDW, it was Marvel. With back when we were kids, sometimes you would see the movie adaptations on the shelves before the movie itself came out. But like with the last Star Wars movie, what was it called? Part 9 Garbage, something like that. They didn't do a miniseries release of that until months after the movie had been out. And I thought that was a surprise. I was like, why are they doing an adaptation now? But, it helps keep spoilers down.
The very first Star Wars film came out before the film itself and was kind of used as a bit of a promotional tool for the film.
Oh, the good old days. All right, let's get to it, boys.
We're gonna talk about comics from Devil's Due. It's something you wondered if Talking Joe would ever do. I guess we'll explain it all to you. Gonna take some time to read the books we've never read.
So we are looking at Devil's Due 17 to 19, The Cabal. Created team, story Josh Blaylock, pencils Brandon Badeaux, inks John Larter's Swan Song, last few issues from him, Rick Ketchum and Andrew Pepoy, colors, hi-fi color designs, anonymous drones being used there again, letters Dreamers designed, copy edit Scott World, graphic design Mike Norton, military consultation Tim Everett and Tillman Goines. I think we're on to the third or fourth military consultant here, and translations Lenka Goines. So I'm guessing some sort of relation to Tillman, helping out with some of the Russian and Czechoslovakian or whatnot that appears in this arc.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
So we've got 17, 18, 19. 17 is Kieran Grant, Corey Hampshire. 18, Dan Barretton. And 19, I think, is Tim Seeley. Is that right?
Tim Seeley, colored by Hi-Fi, direct from the pencils.
Mm-hmm. First one here by Kieran Grant, Corey Hampshire is Flint and Baroness back to back with lots of guns from the mafia types being pointed at them. Let's go over to you, Tim, first for your hot take on this one.
I kind of like this cover. It's drawn in the hot comics house style of 2003. Post Jim Lee. I'm immediately worried about the two characters, right? But I'm also wondering why a hero and a villain are sort of either teaming up or both in trouble at the same time. What's distracting about the cover is Professor Charles Xavier, who's holding one of these guns and standing just behind Flint. And I apologize to everyone who now will never be able to look at this cover and not see Professor X. But the problem with, if you're going to have a bunch of anonymous people surrounding our two heroes, they all have to be anonymous. So either this character should have been in shadow or should have had a hood, or there should have been two more like specific people who are kind of like nobodies, like bad guy thugs. And, you know, one could have a curly hair and one could have a mustache, and you wouldn't draw attention to them. But this is a white guy, a bald white guy, and not every bald white guy in comics looks like Xavier, but like Jim Lee started drawing Professor Xavier with very particular pointy, I don't mean like Namor, I mean like at the end of his eyebrows, like pointy eyebrows. And that's what this drawing is. So it inadvertently draws a lot of attention to itself. I still like the cover, but it's got a problem.
You would think if they were going to single out any character to fill that role, it would have been what's his name, Moskin, the guy that comes in first and interrogates him. But yeah, you wouldn't just throw this guy on here. I mean, like you said, it's Professor Xavier, and you think, why is he using a gun? Just blast him with his, psionics. I know.
This feels like we've talked about recent issues of A Real American Hero where the cover is drawn well in advance of the story being written. And this feels like that. Like I feel like the direction for this cover is Kieran Grant. We know the story is going to have Flint and Baroness in trouble, captured. Draw them captured. It's like, oh, who? Sort of anybody, nobody. Like that's not what was said necessarily, but I'm guessing that's what was said.
Yeah, gangster types, or yeah.
As for the cover to 18, such a thrill to see Dan Brereton creating artwork for G.I. Joe, because his style, like how he actually draws and paints faces and shadows. There's a little weirdness to his faces and his shapes that I love, and it's really fitting that he draws a lot of monsters in his own creator-owned stuff, and he's like very much a horror guy when you need him to paint Batman or Blade or someone. So it's a thrill to see him here. It's a thrill to have a painted G.I. Joe cover. It's really different to have a portrait of a Joe, right? We have a head and shoulders close-up of the Baroness, and then Destro gets thrown in there for good measure. I'm a little unsure on who it is in the background, these three characters.
I think that's meant to be the Oktober Guard, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. So I feel like they've got a giant red circle behind them, which is just a like pretty and nice compositional element. But what if that was like the Russian flag or the Soviet flag, right? Then I would immediately say, oh, those three people are Russian.
Stick
or
a hammer and sickle in there or something.
Yeah, or if they could, be a little closer. Jay, do you have thoughts on the cover to 18?
I really like Brereton's artwork. Yeah, it was interesting to see him do a G.I. Joe cover. Another thing that I thought was interesting was the fact that all three of these covers are by different people.
Yes.
But yeah, 18 is really good. I like that. I like the Baroness. And I always like his artwork. It's almost like the Hildebrandt brothers with the color palette that he uses.
Except the Hildebrandts don't use black. And Brereton uses so much. I see what you mean. I think their treatment of light is very similar.
Yeah, and a lot of kind of blockiness to it in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it. I like you said, it's always nice to see his artwork on something other than his own creator-owned stuff. The Baroness looks cool. Her eyes, maybe like the one that's closest to us, seems like it's, I don't know, almost Asian, which shouldn't be, but in a way, I think that maybe that's just kind of his style sometimes. And then Destro and Oktober Guard back there celebrating New Year's. I like it. I like it a lot.
I also appreciate that Destro's not wearing an over-designed, over-detailed costume.
Well, it's interesting in this series how, during the Reinstated arc, we all talked about how his costume was originally over-designed. And then as soon as the original Destro came back, he switched back to his old one, which I liked. And then, again, in this arc, we do see the return of Alexander in his Destro Jr. costume. I don't know which. I mean, we'll get to that when we get to it, but yeah, I like the I like Destro and his classic look better.
The cover for 19, I like the idea of this,
Yeah.
right? And again, now we have not only covers by 3 different artists, which is not ever what I would do for a 3-part story, but either because, you know, like the first artist couldn't commit to 2 more covers, or, you know, like Brandon said, like
I wouldn't do it unless they were superstar artists, you know, and really, really fantastic covers.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the Brereton one, I don't think that either of these other 2 covers are strong enough to really warrant that.
The sentence description of 19, Flint and Baroness embracing in a kiss, but there's also a sense of danger because they're holding weapons, and there's also a sense that they've been through something because their clothes are a bit torn. I like that. And I remember I saw this cover when I was paying attention to this series but no longer reading it, and I thought, oh, like flirting or actual romance between a Joe and a Cobra. This has only ever sort of happened 1.5 times in all of G.I. Joe. It's not enough to get me back, but interesting. But I don't actually like this cover. And the problem is you need a very particular color artist to take pencils only and digitally paint it and turn it into something substantial. And there's way too much rendering going on here, right? Like if you look at their flesh, they look like shiny corpses, and there's not enough penciling here. Like this needs thicker outlines. This really needed to be inked, and the sort of parallel here is what Liquid, the coloring studio, which I think is Christian Lichtner's, all the color work that Liquid did over Salvador LaRocca on Extreme X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
The brightest sprites are way too shiny and bright, and LaRocca's artwork for that series was colored straight from the pencils, and it's interesting. It does not work. It doesn't have heft, and this cover just sort of like blows away in the wind for me. It's not substantial.
Yeah, I mean, because what's interesting about Tim Seeley's style is it's quite a simplistic, and that's not meant to be derogatory, but a sort of a simple, clean, open style, and you know, we've got a lot of detail here in the colors and the rendering. So clearly, the colorist is doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of the amount of time they're spending on it. They're not just, you know, here's Baroness's hair, that's black, drag and drop the black color, you know, paint can, fill it in. It is kind of, you know, rendering a lot of extra detail into that in the way that it's being drawn out in the colors. And yeah, it's a little bit shame really that it's just credited to Hi-Fi, because Hi-Fi is just a studio after all, and you know, there it is a person behind that doing that work. And as we know, the outputs from Hi-Fi will vary very a lot page by page, depending on who it is that actually is doing the work sitting behind it. There's an interesting parallel here between this cover and also the back cover of the previous issue of 18, because we've got David Michael Beck continuing on the back covers. So in order, I think we've got Classic Destro, Gimp Suit Jinx, and the Iron Grenadiers on 19. But this one on 18 with Jinx is actually credited as being Tim Seeley as pencils, and then David Michael Beck as paints. So yeah, as a superficial glance, you'd look at the way that this has been drawn and coloured and think, yep, that looks very much like David Michael Beck. The background, the detailing and the use of light in the costume and the textures, all very much like his style, but the composition, the layout of the figure does feel different and look different, and that's obviously because it's over the top of some Seeley pencils. And yeah, I think it works. I think it looks nice, and some of the kind of wonkiness in terms of the kind of the flair that Beck uses in his fisheye lenses and his unusual sort of framing of some of the images is not present in this particular image.
I like all three of Beck's back covers. Compositionally, in terms of color and light, he's still not my favorite painter in comics. That might be Joe Jusko, but these three do feel of a piece. I think the one with Tim Seeley's involvement turned out great. What's actually most striking to me is the Iron Grenadier piece. There are a lot of highlights on it, and there are little bits of yellow in the highlights on the gold on these costumes. But if you squint, the whole piece sort of disappears in front of your eyes. It's all quite dark, and it's all not only almost all the same value, brightness or darkness, it's all almost the same color. And that's not something I think works on every cover. Certainly that's not happening on the Destro cover. Destro really pops from the background, at least on the left side, right, where there's more of a difference between light and dark, and his gauntlets are brighter. This Iron Grenadier piece, I don't love the design. That this is a Devil's Due invention. Their helmets are now overdone and
insectoid.
Yeah, sort of scary, but interesting painting. I don't understand what that lens flare is on the right above the lower Iron Grenadiers. Just is there like a star in the, like, it's not nighttime? Is there just a star
or a plane in the far distance, or a satellite, or a helicopter?
Jay,
who knows?
Jay, what do you think?
I actually kind of like their face plates on the Iron Grenadier outfits. I think that's kind of a neat design. It's just kind of weird looking. Other than that, I'm not a big fan of the Iron Grenadier cover. I like that. I don't think the original design of the character had them in these kind of skin tight suits. They were more, you know, how Cobra Commander has more of a, almost like a German military kind of outfit. You know, it's almost like a suit, kind of, you know, clothing. I like that look, I think, better.
This is almost like the G.I. Joe movie, Rise of Cobra movie look of Snake Eyes, to that kind of rubberized body.
And I agree totally.
Maybe, you'd like to see more maybe of a texturized leather or something like that.
Yeah, I think that Destro would kind of want something that's a little more classic looking. And wow, I mean, just count all those
flares.
The little, I think I'm counting really distracting.
10
you know,
plus the additional 2.
Yeah, and that's like 10 too many. The Destro one, I am not a huge fan of, and I'll tell you why. This is going to probably sound stupid. There's a ventriloquist named Jeff Dunham who has a puppet of an old grouchy guy called Walter, and that's exactly what Destro's face looks like. Right?
I got it. Yeah.
It's just, I expect him to say, "Welcome to Walmart. Get your shit and get out." It's just not. I can't look at that without seeing Walter.
Is that a coincidence? Does this image predate that puppet?
I don't know.
Are you being unfair? And is this baggage you're bringing?
It probably is. It's probably my baggage. It really is. Now, as for the Jinx,
once you see it, you can't unsee it, though.
Yeah, you know. Sorry to ruin that for any Joe fans out there, but now to the Jinx one. This is probably, what are we on, issue 17? This is the first time in 17 issues I've thought that her outfit didn't look terrible. And it's interesting to me that Beck would work from another artist's pencils. Normally, a painter like that is not going to work over somebody else's drawing. But I do think that one works really well. Her suit looks good. There's some things that don't quite work. The handle of that pistol looks like it would probably be pointing forward, which you're not going to have that.
It's sort of bending back against her glute.
Yeah, it's a little off. We could have probably left that off. But like I said, this is the first time that I've thought that her suit looks decent. And we're only seeing it from the side. But I think this cover is really good. This one probably is my favorite of the 3.
While we're talking about all black G.I. Joe costumes, I can't remember if we've brought this up before. In talking about Spirit's all black costume, I've said it just looks like he's Snake Eyes. It needs one more thing, one more color. And I think I forgot to criticize this new Jinx outfit when we read Reinstated, when we read Battle Lines. Like, Jinx is identified with red, so why not have some red here? And
Right.
Snake Eyes is such a special character. If you start surrounding him with other characters who are also all in black, he doesn't stand out. You know, it's like if you surround Wolverine with other characters that have claws, or other characters that are wearing like his mask and like his boots with those fins, those flares on them, he doesn't stand out.
Which is a mistake that Marvel have made as well. But it's something else.
A separate discussion. Yes. Like, I think just on its own, Jinx can be in all black. That's fine. But don't forget, she's often going to be standing next to Snake Eyes. I think sort of generally, no one in G.I. Joe should, in all of G.I. Joe, Cobra, should be in only one color, except for Snake Eyes, because if we're thinking of toys, it looks underpainted.
Yeah. And for her, I mean, if it had just been this outfit or any of the ways that we've seen her drawn, and it was red instead of black, it would have been completely different. I wouldn't have had one complaint about it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that in the Marvel comic, her first several appearances, she wasn't in red either. It was always white.
True.
And I don't know why they did that. Either you guys have any idea?
Probably context.
Yeah, isn't she training at the dojo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so she's not in kind of her uniform or battle togs. She's, it's predates. I guess her joining G.I. Joe properly and that kind of thing. So it's the context of her training and being, assisting the blind master in the dojo prior to getting in the missions. But yeah, she doesn't. Don't know if she appears in Larry Hama written costume issues very much in costume. There's that appearance in, is it called Ladies' Day or something like that, which I think might have been Herb Trimpe written. But I'm struggling to think off the top of my head if there was that many other occasions in the Marvel run where she is in uniform.
I wonder.
Really, that I can think of.
I wonder if part of that is because there are already lots of red ninjas in G.I. Joe, and it could be visually confusing, right? Andy Kubert's cover for G.I. Joe 91, which isn't it Snake Eyes in the middle, Scarlet and Jinx surrounded by red ninjas? First time I ever saw that, I didn't know what was going on. I knew I wanted it, but I didn't know what was going on. So I think this might be subtly an issue of clarity.
Yeah, good shout. I forgot about that Jinx in red appearance. Okay, but these three issues aren't only covers. They've actually got story in the middle of it and everything. And John and Jay will tell us about it in the plot breakdown.
On his way to a book signing, yes, I said book signing, G.I. Joe's chief warrant officer Dashiell Fairborn, aka Flint, is kidnapped. Flint wakes up to find himself in a darkened cell in the Czech Republic, alongside none other than Anastasia de Cobray, the Baroness. Flint and the Baroness are interrogated by a man named Moskin, who tells them he's working for three very powerful parties: the Japanese Yakuza, an anonymous Middle Eastern dictator, and the Russian Mafia, all of whom are seeking the whereabouts of Cobra Commander. In Arizona, Flint's wife, Lady Jaye, approaches Duke and tells him her husband is missing. The Joes locate Flint's overturned car, and Duke receives a call from Destro, who tells him the Baroness is also missing and suggests they join forces to mount a joint rescue mission. Grudgingly, Duke agrees. The Joes arrive in the Czech Republic and are greeted by Diana, formerly of the Oktober Guard, who will be assisting in the operation. While Scarlet, Diane, and the Crimson Twins infiltrate a popular local nightclub seeking information, another group consisting of Destro, Gung-Ho, and Snake Eyes raid the main headquarters of a local street gang with ties to both the Russian Mafia and the Yakuza. Once inside the nightclub, however, Scarlet's team is betrayed by another former member of the Oktober Guard, Lieutenant Gorky. Flint and the Baroness escape, only to discover that Scarlet and the Crimson Twins have now been captured as well. They re-enter the castle to rescue their friends just as Destro, Snake Eyes, and the others arrive to help. Lieutenant Gorky is revealed as a traitor and is shot by Destro. A firefight ensues, and Destro and the Joes are pinned down by Moskin, who blasts Destro's vehicle out of the sky with a tank. Just as Destro and the Joes prepare to surrender, they are rescued by Destro's son, Alexander. In the end, Lieutenant Gorky dies in Diana's arm, the Baroness kisses Flint, Lady Jaye punches Flint again, and Diana joins the G.I. Joe team.
Okay, very good. Hard to know where to start on this one, to be honest. It's a 3-issue one and done. It's sort of continuing with a thread that was established in a couple of issues prior when Baroness had been kidnapped by a Yakuza out of the back of her limo. We've got a roll call of a number of different characters from different factions, all sort of teaming up or against each other even as well. What we got on the Joes, it's mostly Flint, Duke, Lady Jaye, Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Gung Ho, and the green shirt Paige Adams, new character, and Cobra, the Baroness, Destro, Tomax, Zaymot, and on the former Oktober Guard side, Dana and Lieutenant Gorky. So yeah, a lot of people in there. It perhaps a couple of characters too many. I found it quite tricky, sort of keeping track of who some of the female characters were supposed to be, because we've got Scarlet, Lady Jaye, Paige Adams, and Dana there, all looking fairly visually similar. Short hair, bit difficult to tell apart at times. We've got possibly a theme of couples and romance going on through the issue. There seems to be a lot of kissing going on as well. There's not a lot of kissing that happens in the G.I. Joe world, but there seemed to be a lot here. They're
making up for lost time.
Yeah, we probably had some from Baroness and Destro. Who knows? Can't remember. There was some from Baroness and Flint, as seen in the cover, and Scarlet and Snake Eyes, even in mid-battle as well, which was a little bit weird. But yeah, that was my rambling take on some of it. Lots of people and kissing. I think maybe if one of you want to come up with your high-level view of these 3 issues in a slightly more coherent way.
Sure. I like the plot. I don't like the script. Blaylock is doing something different here, but too many factions, too many characters, and as you said, I can't tell the women apart. And I have a specific panel that sort of kicks off that problem. I appreciate how international this is. I love when G.I. Joe teams up with Destro, or Destro, this has happened in the comics, this has happened in the animation. I love it when Destro either sells out Cobra Commander to G.I. Joe, or there's some third faction, I guess 4th faction, if Destro is the 3rd faction. I like it when Destro and the Joes team up. But even here, it's sort of marred by a panel or two where I feel like the character voices aren't correct, and there's too much going on, and by the time it's all over, I feel like there are several narrative and character missteps that keep this story arc from working for me.
I agree. I think the plot was really good, but yeah, you both make a lot of really good points. There was a character introduced, and I honestly, still am not sure whether she's a Joe or who the Paige Adams character is supposed to be. Seems to be coming out of nowhere, and really, in the end, has no relevance to anything. That could have completely been Diane of the October show, or the Oktober Guard. There's just very little distinction between the way Lady Jaye looks and the way Scarlet looks. There's several panels where you could be looking at one and you think you're seeing another one. Also agree with Mark. I don't think that a lot of the I don't know if emotion is the right word. There's things that I kind of do like Lady Jaye telling Duke, Flint and I have a thing that we do. If somebody's going to be gone, he'll leave something on his pillow, whatever, it lets her know. And it's a nice little touch. It's kind of, I don't know how well it's pulled off. But then, later she's all, Duke, please don't let anyone know you saw me like this. She's sniffling, and he's like, oh, don't worry. Your reputation with a hard ass is safe with me. Well, come on. We know. You know, if they're married, of course she's going to be concerned. It's not like he's going to walk out and go, you guys, Lady Jaye's crying. I mean, it's just not something that needs to be said.
She loves her husband.
Yeah, right. It's she's a wimp, you know. And then, yeah, the kissing in the battle, you know, Snake Eyes comes in and Scarlet rushes over to him and, you know, does the Mary Jane with his mask and they kiss in the middle of battle. And I'm like, no, that's not, you know, if Snake Eyes could talk, he'd be like, woman, I got people to kill. You know, this can wait. And then, you know, later we see the same thing with Flint and Lady Jaye. The one that I did like was at the end when Baroness is like, hold on. And she goes and kisses Flint, because that's totally a Baroness move, you know, and she probably knows this is going to get both Flint and Lady Jaye riled up. But then again, we get the beat where Lady Jaye punches Flint afterward. I don't think that would happen either, especially after we just spent the 2 or 3 scenes in the first issue where she's all worried about him and you know, everything. When she punched him the first time in the Marvel comics, and I'm not sure how many there were, but the first one that I can think of was when it was after they had rescued Stalker and Outback and Quick Kick, and he was mad at Snake Eyes and Scarlet for lying to them and going undercover, and he said something and Lady Jaye punched him. You know, that was kind of mission related. You know, it wasn't like the scene in Reinstated where Scarlet slapped Snake Eyes in the face because he left her at the altar. You know, it was something that was, you're being a jerk. And you could see a male character doing that to any other male character. You know, it wasn't like, here's a woman who's overly emotional and she's smacking this guy because another lady kissed her to make him jealous. High school stuff.
Yeah, I was going to just point out as well that's specific reference back to issue 67, where it's even on the cover. I think it's Mike Zeck cover, probably, where Lady Jaye is punching out Flint, echoing what happened in the interiors of the story, where he's acting like a bit of an asshole towards Outback.
It's a Ron Wagner cover, but it's one of those Ron Wagner covers that you think is a Zeck cover.
Clearly.
I'm going to go a step further. I'm sorry, I don't think Josh Blaylock knows how to write women.
Agreed.
And I'll forgive that, because I think he and I are about the same age. And if I was writing and publishing a G.I. Joe comic when I was like 22, let's just say I should not be doing that, right? It's like I'm just not ready. So, okay, in the first part of this arc, on pages 7 and 11, Lady Jaye is worried and sad, and then she's crying. And sorry, these are soldiers, and soldiers feel emotion, and excuse me, soldiers feel emotion and they express emotion. We don't really see that in G.I. Joe. And then in the middle chapter, Flint, who's tortured for hours or days, he like yells like, "Bring it on!" Right, and even the size of the lettering gets bigger to show that he's yelling, and like he's some kind of superhuman. And then in the final chapter, in the panel where Snake Eyes has crashed through the window and also shot some of the bad guys and also shot near the hostages he's rescuing, he cuts Scarlet's binds. And it's not colored, and it's very small. But in the panel before she kisses him, she's crying, which I don't understand. And then she's crying when she kisses him. So there's several things wrong with that. One, she should just grab a gun or start kicking people or running. Two, as Jay said, Snake Eyes would not accept a kiss. And like, this is a thing that someone writes when they're not thinking about the actual timing and logic of a story, right? Like at the end of Star Wars Episode 2, in the arena, all the Jedi show up, and Anakin and Padme, right? She was tied up, and her like costume is like cut, so Natalie Portman is like exposing her midriff, right? Because like Star Wars has still got to be a little sexy, and she like jumps and lands on the like CG dinosaur that Anakin Skywalker's on, and she like leans in and gives him a peck. It's like, look, I understand you were both just tied up, or one of you was tied up and you might die, but like, this guy's a Jedi. This is a fight. You've been a senator and a princess. There's no time for this. Like, that's just for the audience to be like, oh, that's what they do. And no, that's not what you do. And then Diana, who does nothing for the story, and Jay, in that wonderful summary, made a good point that Diana and Sergeant Paige Adams just should have been one character. At the end of the story, Gorky, we're at his tombstone, and for some reason, Snake Eyes is with her. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. For some reason, he looks sort of mean or angry, and she's crying. And so in this version of G.I. Joe, women are emotional and they cry. Men are like tough and they just get angry, right? Like there's a panel in it's page 9 of the final chapter. So the bad guy who's been torturing Baroness and Flint grabs Baroness and sticks a gun to her head. Gung Ho, or Dr. Mindbender, or random beefy bald guy, because in this universe, like Dr. Mindbender and Gung Ho have like the same glasses and the same mustache, and I can't tell them apart.
Thank you.
Also, I think there's either a random like third guy who's bald with that mustache who shows up in this story, or Gung Ho shows up but no one calls him by name the first time. Anyway, so Gung Ho says, on second thought, why don't you take her? Why don't you, bad guy who's got Baroness hostage, why don't you just leave, right? Because no skin off my teeth. And Destro screams with his arm out and his missiles ready to fire, if he harms one more hair on her head, I'll kill everyone present, even if I die in the process. Nope, that's not Destro. Destro can get angry. He can lose it. I don't think he should lose his cool. I guess he could, because the story's gone to some lengths to show that he's like killing his way and yelling his way to find his beloved. He's not in love, man. That's not Destro. And so the gender role stuff here, woof, does not work.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And since you mentioned it, oh man alive, the very first panel that he shows up, I was like, why is Dr. Mindbender riding out of the G.I. Joe airplane?
Exactly what I thought. I thought, because they're teaming up.
Yeah, and like, it took me a while to realize that's Gung Ho. He's drawn exactly like Dr. Mindbender is in almost every panel. Huge mistake.
Now, to be fair to Brandon Badeaux, he does draw heroic characters extra big and beefy, and I don't recall if he drew Mindbender a couple issues ago, and Mindbender is more of a slim, skinny guy, and I feel like if Badeaux drew the two of them next to each other, they wouldn't have the same body type, so we sort of should be able to tell them apart. But there's a rule in stories that you name your characters each time they show up for the first time. At Marvel in the 80s, that rule was because every comic book was someone's first. But the rule could work here because half these characters aren't in their iconic costumes, right? Gung Ho's got some like coat on, which kind of looks like what Dr. Mindbender would wear, although it's not purple. And also there's a scene where they're all in coats because it's cold, and then there's a scene where they're all in evening wear because they're at a fancy club. And it would be hard to tell these characters apart if there weren't Joes and Cobras and Oktober Guard and some random Czech military good guys who are helping the Oktober Guard, and then also the Yakuza, and then also the Russian something, and then also the something. And then also Cobra Commander is in the final 2 pages, right? I think there are 9 factions in this story.
They help us out with Gung Ho a little bit by having a name tag on his chest.
I saw that.
Right, which shows up after the first chapter, or after the first couple panels.
Possibly, yeah. What my funniest Gung Ho moment was in that. I think it's the first appearance of him in this story where he's being introduced with he's alongside Lady Jaye, Scarlet, and Snake Eyes, and with the Cobra faction at this point, and someone's talking and says that my assistant is now handing you vital information you need for this mission, including photographs of suspects who may be at Savoyas. I'm assured by your superiors that each of you are experts at undercover operations and accustomed to surveillance technology we've provided. And as he's being given this folder, he's sort of eyeing up this assistant, and then and then he's looking at his paperwork over the top of his glasses and checking out her butt.
I hadn't noticed that.
Are you chuckling at this that it's like funny and fun, or are you frowning at this like it's out of character or distracting?
Mostly the latter. Yeah. This is Gung-Ho, who likes to generally parade around with his shaved head, handlebar mustache, massive tattoo on it. Yeah, and just wearing a small top that's showing off his beefy muscles. I wonder if the writer's barking up the wrong tree a little bit, because later on in the IDW continuity, I think in that continuity they do make certain character traits canon, which doesn't bother me one way or the other. But this whole sequence, it's like, what are you thinking putting this in here? Does it, if you're going to put it in one story beat, do you need to have that one, and does it need to be Gung-Ho? Who knows?
So I want to point out a panel for me, which is sort of where the story starts to reveal itself as not keeping track of itself, and that is it's in the first chapter, and it's about halfway
Page
through.
1, issue 1, panel 1. Sorry.
It's about in the middle, halfway through the first chapter. There's the C-130 or whatever the giant cargo plane is landing, and this big middle panel of 3 Joe vehicles coming out of the plane. There's like a Humvee, maybe it's the Hammer. There's an ATV, and there's sort of the Silver Mirage, right? And I see 4 Joes. I see left to right, Gung-Ho, Lady Jaye, Scarlet, and Snake Eyes. But in the previous panel, when the plane is landing, there's a disembodied word balloon. So someone in control and command is rattling off what's going to happen. And they say, okay, all troops ready. Snake Eyes, Gung-Ho, Lady Jaye, Sergeant Paige Adams. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 names.
Missing Scarlet, isn't it?
Right, it's missing Scarlet, but it mentions Sergeant Paige Adams. But then the next panel, it's missing Sergeant Paige Adams, but I see Scarlet. And so when I read this, I thought, wait, who's Sergeant Paige Adams? And it didn't even occur to me that she's a green shirt from a previous issue. I started to wonder, wait, is she the person who was doing that briefing? I guess the briefing happens on the next page. I just couldn't tell. So, Mark and Jay, who is Sergeant Paige Adams?
See, I didn't do my homework to answer this properly, but I think she was established in some earlier issues as a bit of an expert marksman.
Oh, was she the one? Yeah, I think I might know what scene you're talking about.
Pretty sure she was referred to by name, and she was kind of showing off that she's a hot shot.
Is this one of those scenes where the Beachhead's giving the green shirts a hard time?
I don't think it was Beachhead because it was at the shooting range.
Okay.
It could have been.
Is it are Damon and Firewall nearby, and they're like, we're out of shape?
You would expect that. I'm wondering, on that same page that you're talking about where the plane lands, how many headlights are on that Silver Mirage?
That's perfectly in keeping with the 2003 Hasbro vehicle redesigns and the Devil's Due costume redesigns. I don't like it. I don't like it, but it's perfectly in keeping.
I mean, it looks like a fly with like 8 eyes on it or something.
All right, so here's one more thing where, and this one's a smaller detail. So a couple pages later, a limo pulls up to this fancy house. And this Japanese guy gets out of the back of the limo, and the Russian or Czech guy with the cigar and the like Russian cap takes him down the stairs and opens the door, and this is where Flint and Baroness are tied up together. And the Russian or Czech guy says, the prisoners are right down hall. I would like you to meet Mr. Shutan or Mr. Shotan. Compliments of Japanese Yakuza. I don't know what I'm looking at in this final panel. Upon looking at it more carefully, we're looking past someone's butt, and the camera is at like 3.5 feet, 4 feet tall, as someone is putting a tray down on a wooden table or bench, and then behind it is like the stone wall. I can't tell what's on this tray or platter. Oh, it's torture devices.
Yeah,
it just sort of looked. It looked
trope
like
of-
writing. It looked like writing.
Yeah, it looks like
laying
hieroglyphs.
Looked like writing on a scroll. Okay, having now read this comic and slept on it and thought about it, because something's referred to on the next page. So there's something else in particular about this panel at the bottom of the page with the hand holding the tray. So you turn the page, and the Baroness says, "The missing pinky gave it away." So is this moron going to ask me the same stupid questions as you? Yada, 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 yada. I don't know where Cobra Commander is. Don't torture us. And I'm thinking, wait, someone's missing a pinky? And so I'm looking at this page where the torture guy is now putting on gloves, and then he reaches his hands behind his head. I don't know why. And then the next panel, the big panel, they're like 2 Polaroids that are like floating in the air because he's taking pictures with a digital camera that does not print pictures. It's not an instant camera. So like, okay, you know what? In the language of comics, you can compress time. You can put things visually on top of things that are from another place, another time, another character. You can have inset panels. Like, this is okay, except that I don't understand. And it's like, oh, he's putting on an apron because he doesn't want to get himself bloody. But I don't see the apron because there are these like Polaroids in front of it. It's like, wait, is he missing a pinky? So now I realize that one of these gloves...
It's got a floppy pinky finger.
Okay, but let's go back. Let's go back to the previous page. There's the panel with his looking past his butt as he's leaning down, putting down a tray. Okay, where was the tray? He's not carrying a tray in the 2 previous panels. He's carrying a briefcase. Also, in one of those panels, I can't see what he's carrying because there's a word balloon in the way. So anyway, back to this final panel.
It's like a canvas roll that he's rolling out that is...
Okay. If you look... Yes, thank you. All the way on the right side where the page ends, his right pinky looks, I guess, shorter than the other ones, but the way that the hand is drawn with the fingers sort of curved, it's a little hard to tell. Like, okay, so here's this one particular thing that makes this character, 1, recognizable to the Baroness. She knows who this like infamous torture guy is from the Yakuza. And 2, that is going to give him like a fun quirk for us, the reader, to latch onto. And I can't see it because it's colored really dark. It's drawn almost off the page. And then later on, at the end, when everything goes to heck, in the final chapter, someone's like... I think one of the good guys or one of the other bad guys, is like upset that the prisoners are escaping, and he's like a missing pinky isn't all you're going to get for this mission going awry. And it's like, oh right, he was missing a pinky, which literally did not come up for an entire issue, like the middle chapter of this story. It's like, if he had an eye patch, that's undeniable because Brandon Badeaux is absolutely going to draw his face. If he has I don't know, like a medallion. It's like if he had a medallion like Destro, and half the time it was tucked under his shirt. It's like, what medallion? Comics are a visual medium. You have to show things. Show and tell. Show and tell.
It's the reason it's a pinky is because he's Yakuza, right? So that's, it's sort of leaning into the trope that Yakuza get fingers chopped off for doing, for doing badly by their bosses. So,
yes. Okay. Sorry.
So there's a logic for choosing that.
I had learned that from a movie. I had forgotten it. Thank you. For
Which is probably how Josh Blaylock also learned it. I feel like there's a lot of movie etic, let's call it, elements that and tropes that kind of informing the way that this story works. I dug out at least one of the Page Adams' previous appearances, which was from issue 2, where it looks like Dusty is doing some sharpshooting training, and Page Adams is at the rifle range. He says, "Name, soldier? Page Adams, sir, U.S. Army. Now, if you don't mind, blam, blam, blam. Nice show, hun. 2 out of 6. How about try aiming next time? Commander Dusty, digital playback shows that all shots So all 6 shots hit. I'm sorry, you didn't say I had to make 6 holes. So she shot the target 3 times, but it's twice in the going through the same hole because she's that good. So I think she's appeared probably a couple of other times throughout these issues, but obviously this is the first time that she's being incorporated as a character proper on a mission alongside the other Joes, and obviously
in this arc it never comes up that she's an excellent marksman. So
no, well, she takes the shot to take out the torturer guy who's
but that's
holding...
I take Jay's point here that in the beginning of this arc, no one reminds the reader who she is or what she does or that she's good at it. And Mark, it's very possible that she shows up 1 or 2 other times between issue 2 and issue 17, 18, 19. If not, that's 15 months plus the months of Reinstated running bi-monthly. So it's possible that readers actually haven't seen this character in more than a year and a half.
I thought it was a new character.
I thought it was a confusing something that I didn't understand.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's perfect, but there is at least some continuity going on there, even if it's even if we're not being necessarily always quite helped along in the journey as we might otherwise like to be. Shall I point out one of the weird things that threw me? There were a couple. One of them was this torturer. So they've escaped, and somehow the Baroness took off her glasses and used her glasses to escape. And then once they are out, we've got this splash page reveal of the torturer coming out. This is in issue 19. It's a splash page of him sort of clutching a wound, and he says, "Prisoners have escaped." And between his legs, at the very bottom of the panel, is some falling glass, it looks like, and the top of the glass looks maybe like a bottom of a wine glass or something, and I couldn't quite work out what that was supposed to indicate. The only thing that made any sort of logical sense would be that maybe it's the shards of glass from Baroness's glasses that were used to yoink him, but I don't know.
I think I can help here.
Okay, please do.
So he's staggering in because he got stabbed in the arm, and behind him is an end table with a lamp and some framed photos. I think that's one of those little glass jars that has like candy or cotton balls in it.
Okay.
It's like more of a decoration in a like fancy person's house. I think the idea here is that he like stumbles in and bumps into the wall and the table and knocks something off. And if you flip back to the previous page, the final panel, he is leaning against the wall and we see that table, but oh no, not that glass jar that he's about to knock off.
Okay. I'll go with that. That makes sense. It makes more sense than the Baroness's glasses for somehow at that point choosing to appear between his legs.
It's good you bring up the Baroness's glasses. I love that she gets them out. It's not Flint, that she does it with her glasses, which is, part of her like signature look, and that either she like breaks them and there's a sharp piece and she picks the lock or cuts the rope, or maybe she actually has a little blade hidden in her glasses. But that whole thing happens off panel. It's just all of a sudden she's not wearing glasses and she's free. And Flint says, "I thought you looked different." It's like, wait, we're what? No, that's cool. Like, show me that. So here's a case where the script skips or avoids something that would be helpful or cool.
I just figured out something as well from the escape sequence that finally made sense, because I thought she had maybe stabbed this torturer with her glasses. I thought glasses aren't particularly deadly implement, but I think what she's done is that she's undone her restraints so that she's got her hands free, and because they think that she is still tied up, they're underestimating her, and she's able to grab the scalpel that he's wielding with her from him, turn it around, and then
I see that,
stab him.
No, because you see it falling,
and then you see it falling, which is also a bit strange that you'd think.
Right.
That seems to indicate that maybe he's dropping it. I don't know.
I
But
don't know. Yeah.
He's got that arm wound in that place where she's got her fist up against his shoulder. So
maybe there are two scalpels. Maybe he drops the one he's holding, and she's holding one that we can't see because she has. In the previous panel, her arm is out of view, and then in this panel, she's plunged it all the way into him.
I
Okay.
don't.
She stabbed
think
him
this
with
is one we
something.
can know prize.
I have one last gender thing here. So there are 3 or so panels in issues 18 and 19 where the Baroness's underwear is like visible above her like low rise and tight pants, and that's a thing that male comics artists were drawing in comics around 2003. And
to be fair, was how some females were dressing around about that era as well.
Okay, but do you think that's how the Baroness dresses?
Not so much.
Now, so this feels cheap and exploitive. But what's also strange is that half the panels we can see that, and half the panels we can't. So I don't like it, but if you're going to do something, right, it's got to be consistent. All right, I've one other. All right, so the thing with her glasses being somehow a lockpick, I like that. I wish we'd seen it, or that it wasn't like a weird Deus Ex Machina where all of a sudden they're free, and Flint's like, oh, well, let me explain how we got to be free. As a flip side, there's a scene which I like, but it's overwritten, and it's in issue 17, the first chapter, and it's this page that I don't like where Lady Jaye is crying in Duke's office. Brandon Badeaux draws really great body language on this green shirt who has a name tag Johnson, and he comes in, Duke, you have a call in line 4, someone who says they need to speak to you right away, and he's holding his hand up with his pinky and his thumb to his ear and his mouth in the miming you have a phone call pose, and that's great. Badeaux's art here is good. I don't think it's as we'll talk about the art as a separate category when I'm done complaining about writing. So and then Duke holds up his hand in a really like great body language way, like tell whoever it is to take a number. So then he goes back to comforting Lady Jaye, and then Johnson comes back in again. Duke, I think you might want to take this. The caller is very insistent and says he has information that concerns you. He sounds legit to me. And so Duke picks up the phone. On the one hand, this kind of thing does happen. You call someone, they ignore you or hang up on you, and then you call them back. Or you get a call, you hang up on them, and then you get a call back. And it's like, no, this really is like Robert De Niro. Or like, no, this is the president. This is not your friend pulling a prank. On the other hand, this page just wasted 2 panels with no benefit. It's like, no, Destro still got through, and Duke still says, how did you get this number? And Destro says, I have my ways. This is a small thing. This isn't like, Josh Blaylock, what have you done? But for the pacing of it, I think it's interesting because he's like, no, I'm not taking that call. Like, no, sir, he called back. Like, what? At the same time, get on with it. I'm much more interested in Destro and Duke having this moment on the phone rather than like, sir, he's called a 7th time. This guy, Johnson, I'm still talking to Lady Jaye. Turn around. Don't see her crying. Like, sir, he's called an 8th time. It's like, too much.
So what else was there? I wanted to. This is turning into a bit of a list of gripes from us, which is maybe a bit unfair on the overall art. But what struck me about was one of those last pages where we were talking about it before, Tim, with Dana and Snake Eyes in the clouds, just as they're at a gravesite burying Gorky, and just that final panel of that page just it made me laugh because it's like, what is going on there? It just looks like Dana's in the back of this limo, and Snake Eyes is just nuzzling into her hair. Can you see that?
Yeah, it does look kind of weird. And I had to wonder when I first saw this, I was like, is she driving? I'm like, what is she doing? And where's he at? But yeah, you really have to look at it to figure out that, okay, they're in their
lap. What?
It looks that way, but I'm sure that's not what's happening. I think that they're in the back seat. She's kind of leaning forward, looking out the window. Snake Eyes is looking mean, like Snake Eyes does. Yeah. But yeah, the the character placement is
It's not that there's
really
this
not doing it any favors.
New sexed up
And
Snake
the whole
Eyes has
panel
just
with
become
them
a
in the
major
clouds.
player. It's like, yeah, that's right.
The panel, the semi splash of them in the clouds is confusing, and I don't remember from issues 101 and 102, or Special Missions 26, or issue 92. I don't remember if Snake Eyes and this Oktober Guard member have any particular connection. If Snake Eyes has a particular connection to Gorky.
I don't think so. I don't think they were ever on the same missions together.
So why is Snake Eyes here? Why aren't there more Joes? Or why are there no Joes? And then in the final panel, when she's in the limo, she says, I think I'll miss home, but moving to America could be just what I need. I think becoming a member of G.I. Joe is just what I need. I didn't know anyone could just announce that they're going to be a member of G.I. Joe. Like, did Duke or Flint or Hawk offer that? Like, there's no tip off earlier in the story. It's like, well, we've got an exchange program, or like, send Sergeant Paige Adams. We should take on some Oktober Guard members. Like, that's cool. I don't understand how it just sort of happens arbitrarily here.
Mm-hmm.
This would have worked better if it had been like Duke or Flint accompanying her, and there was more of a conversation about, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And then the last panel is them saying,
maybe becoming a G.I. Joe member.
yeah,
is what
maybe you could join us or something. Instead of, like you said, her just saying, I think I'll become a G.I. Joe.
All right. I have one last sort of too many characters, story doesn't quite add up comment. So again, Mark, thank you for reminding us who Sergeant Paige Adams is and that she's so cool.
She's my favorite character, man. I can't believe this.
No, I don't mean that. I'm not making fun. Thank you for grabbing the comic. Okay. So all right, so at the end, so there's this showdown in this mansion where the torture guy has the Baroness with a gun to her head, and the torture guy gets shot, and Baroness is safe. And it cuts back to Lady Jaye, who's just standing there not doing anything. Also Scarlet, Sergeant Paige Adams, and Snake Eyes. Dramatically, don't we want it to be Lady Jaye to be the character who takes out the evil villain who tortured Flint, the man she loves that she's been so upset about? Lady Jaye doesn't get to do anything in this story that like directly affects Flint, but she does go and hug him and cry in the next panel, right? So going back to Jay's comment about what Sergeant Paige Adams did could have been done by one of the other characters. It's like, this Oktober Guard member and her, it's like that should have been one role. And then,
well, yeah, I mean, Dana is the Oktober Guard's sniper as well, which is
right.
The other thing.
Wow. See, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, so when Jay did the
but
summary,
wait, there's more.
Well, it's on the same page. So when Jay, when you did your summary earlier, you said that Destro shot Gorky.
Yes.
Where does that happen?
It happens and I had to look. It happens in the scene. Let me go back here where Destro hit in his flying thing, whatever it is. He busts in the window, and Gorky is standing on like the balcony, and he shoots him there. He comes in, back, and two or three bad guys yell, and that's where he got shot. Because I'm like you, I had to flip back through there 2 or 3 times and be like, where did he get shot at? And that's it right there is where he gets hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and it's established that he's one of the guys on that ledge because Flint specifically says, Gorky, what are you doing here working for these creeps? And they're holding him. And then it's bam, 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 bam. Yeah.
Right. But that page where the anti-gravity pod crashes through the window and shoots Gorky and 2 other bad guys, the top middle panel, everyone's in silhouette. All right, so my other question was, I guess Gorky is dying. Like, what? This sounds mean, but like, why should I care? I think his death would mean a lot more if there were fewer characters, so he could do more and his betrayal could be greater. And him like explaining at the very end, like, oh, you don't know what it's like. Things have fallen apart in the Soviet Union. My unit was corrupt. It's like, that's a lot of exposition 2 seconds before you die. I wish I had known that you were having a hard time earlier.
It's all right. The other thing about the Gorky character arc here was that Gorky hasn't appeared a huge amount in the story in the G.I. Joe universe at this point to date, and then the one memorable thing about him and his character was that he had this flirtatious moment with Lady Jaye when they were out on their mission in those issues where it was they appeared. Was it around about issue 103, something like that? I'm trying to find it, but here it is. When they reunite, he says, "Lady Jaye, how are you to be doing, my love? Lieutenant Gorky, so long that I do not be seeing you. Stuff it, Rusky. I'm not here for the dating scene. Haven't you heard? My husband's on vacation here." It's a little bit, maybe she can let him down and say that she's married. The dynamic is
dialogue,
different.
I tell you.
Stuff it, Rusky. Come on. She's just been nice.
And the broken English that the Russian characters all speak, just like that. So nice to be seeing you, or whatever. I mean,
yeah, I wanted to point out one thing about that that moment about the anti-gravity pod sort of busting through the window, and Destro sort of saves the day, but then Flint realizes what's going on, and he confronts him and is pointing his dual pistols at him, and Destro says, that he's on his side, and he says, "Flint, if I'm not speaking the truth, then why would I open the canopy to expose myself?" And I had to do a double take on that and go, "What? The canopy's open?" Because it's all coloured in the same colour, the glass and the canopy itself. So, and the open bit of the canopy is out of shot. So there's not many visual cues that we've got that the canopy is open. What would have been, I think, better would be if instead of bathing Destro in this pink light, the same as the pink glass of the canopy, that it was coloured in a more natural style to indicate that there wasn't this dividing canopy still between them. Minor nitpick. We do get the reveal of the Cobra strike hiss in action with its front section lifted up like a snake ready to attack, and Alexander Destro back in his big stompy boots in action, somewhat saving the day by taking out this big Russian baddie, the Russian creep Moskin, in his tank, who's threatening to blow them all away as they are gathered together in the balcony.
How do you guys feel about Alexander's return and what he does?
I don't like that he's wearing his Destro costume again. Would Destro really be like, "Yeah, all right, put the same silver mask on that I wear all the time"? I mean, that right there, I don't mind his return. I don't mind any of that. Just the fact that he's got the same outfit on.
Yeah, as a visual cue, it's just, it's
not. It doesn't work.
Too similar to the real Destro to really, stand out something different.
It'd be like Tim said in one of the previous issues, if we had Roadblock and Double Blast in the same panel, and they were drawn like exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. That the mask is a different discussion. Certainly, he should have a different costume, right? It can be red and black. It can have a cue that says Destro, family Destro, but it probably shouldn't be the costume he had in Reinstated, because he's been punished and he is a wholly different character. He's not a clone. Or I like that he shows up. I really appreciate how, though Blaylock crams in too much, the final 2 pages, we come back to Cobra Commander and Zartan, who were more important in some previous issues, Tomax and Zaymot, who are a runner in this arc, and I like how they work in this arc. They show up, reference back to the Dreadnoks, and then looking ahead to Storm Shadow and probably some ninja stuff, because the final page ends on this question: where is Storm Shadow, right? And seemingly he should be up on the roof, or he has been up on the roof and left a message. I don't understand this warehouse or like cover building for Cobra in Detroit, Michigan called Trash.
I was just looking at that. I'm like, what?
I think it's, it's like it's supposed to be a factory or a nightclub or a warehouse or something. And, like we've all seen or been to businesses where it's got some name that doesn't, like you go to some steakhouse and it's called like Rusty's, right? And it's not, the steakhouse isn't called like Meat Place. It's called Rusty's. It's some guy's name, or it's a feeling, right? Like, oh, cowboys and rustic and wood, right? It's not like, oh, is the meat rusty? Like, no. So this can be whatever it wants to be. But it seems awfully particular that it's like Trash, and it's in this sort of like Japanese like calligraphy handwriting. So asks a question that I'm not sure the answer to.
Yeah.
Okay, so just like people will get Japanese symbols that they think mean like courage, and really it means like soup. This is probably means something else, but since they're not English letters, they're Japanese characters. It probably says something totally different that we don't understand because we're not Japanese or tattoo artists.
Okay.
So how do you? All right. So we've had Brandon Badeaux on the book before. He now pencils 3 issues in a row. Jay, you were a big fan of his work.
Yes.
Previously, how art-wise, how do these 3 issues work for you?
Not as strong as the previous 2 that he did. And I go back through these, and there's some panels that are really strong, but then there's other spots that just feel a bit more rushed. And I feel like probably that was the big problem was, he probably had a tighter deadline with these. But yeah, it's I don't think it's as strong as the previous 2 issues that he did. And like I said, I could go back through and point out different panels where he does like face up or close-ups of people's faces and eyes and things. Like there's one panel where you see Baroness. I think it's one of the very first panels where she's in the cell and she looks at Flint, over her glasses, and her eyes look really nice in that one. So yeah, there's some things that he does, some hands, some gestures, like you said when Duke gets Destro's phone call, that were really good. But then there's other panels that just don't work. Like you were talking about the panel where Paige Adams shoots the Japanese torturer. That panel, I mean, she shoots him in the first panel, blam, and then you see her standing with the other Joes and the gun's smoking. I had to really look at that panel first to see what was going on there. And, I don't know whether it was late when I read this or the first time I read it, honestly, was on my phone. So it was a pretty small image. But it almost looks like, if you're not looking at it close, I thought that like Scarlet had somebody around the throat, that the same way that this guy had the Baroness, and it just was kind of unclear, especially with Scarlet's head, where it was at. What was going on there, and it's too many people, trying to cram too many people in one panel. In that panel, you need the shooter, Scarlet, and Lady Jaye. Scarlet should be where Snake Eyes is. I'm not sure who's behind them. I think it's supposed to be the Crimson Twins, maybe. They don't even need to be in that panel. It would have worked a lot better with them not there. And there's
in the
other
story
spots.
at all.
Yeah, there's other spots where he has to deal with, and I think it goes back to, like you said, having too many people in this arc. When he's able to spend a panel or, space on one character, he does really well. When he's trying to cram too much stuff into one panel, it tends to get a little sloppy, or it looks a lot looser than like some of the close-ups and stuff that he does that are really nice. It just overall doesn't work as good as the other one did. But still, there's some nice spots. But the spots where it doesn't work, really they do hamper the story quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that we've got an artist for the 3-issue arc, and we've got a consistent look to the art. I think Badeaux's art generally is strong. It's not necessarily my favorite style, but there's it generally does look good, even if potentially a lot of the characters are a little bit samey in the terms of being able to differentiate the females and the way that the men are always or built like brick shit houses. But yeah, the art is looks nice, and there's a lot of good action sequences throughout the issue, which he generally carries off well. And when you've got as many locations, technology, and characters as it being crammed in here, it's a difficult job to really properly balance all of that stuff out when you've got as many cast members as we've got, and sort of pinging in between scenes the way that we have here. It's I think it's a tricky ask for an artist. So I think we've been focusing a little bit on the negative here, but I think there is a lot of positives within it as well.
Yeah, like we said, it'd be a hard job, because especially with this arc, what'd you say? There was like 9 different factions. I mean, go through here and count how many different characters are in this arc. It'd be tough. It'd be tough to make everybody look different and to cram it all in there and get the backgrounds and keep things clear
and changing costumes.
Not at all saying that I could do a better job.
Every few scenes, everyone's looking different again.
And not only are there a lot of characters, there's also just a lot of action. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of acting. There's a lot of people having conversations where they need to be pointing and looking and leaning over. There's a lot of punching and walking downstairs, and vehicles show up. I think Badeaux is most comfortable, as Jay says, when there's one character in a panel. But so much is thrown at him in these 3 issues. He pulls it off well.
Cool. Shall we move on to I Spy, or are there more thoughts?
I'm ready for I Spy.
I spy with my little eye.
I spy the Crimson Twins, Tomax and Zaymot, pointing out that they have no official ties to Cobra Commander. Just check our backgrounds. They're flawless. At the same time as being dressed in Cobra uniforms with a Cobra sigil on their chest. And what makes you an official Cobra? Is there some sort of club card or something that you're given?
Like a membership card, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a bit late in the game to be saying, what, Cobra? Well, we've never heard on that. Oh,
yeah.
What's going on?
They're trying to we don't know who you're talking about. I couldn't get past, sorry Tim, I couldn't just the very beginning of this, and I made comment to it in the plot breakdown, the fact that Flint is doing a book signing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first page there, Farms and Feeble booksellers. I'm not sure exactly what the joke is supposed to be there.
Barnes and Noble, I think.
Well, right, but what the hell is Farms and Feeble? That doesn't make any sense. But the whole Flint doing a book signing, I didn't get it at all. I mean, I'm like, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work at all.
It's funny. I've been reading the Chuck Dixon versus IDW issues, and they go in completely, very one direction about how G.I. Joe is formed and people recruited to the extent that people have to be officially
give
dead.
Up their families and stuff.
Give everything up. Be signed off on in official paperwork as being dead and no longer existing. Top ultra hush secret, which is close, close to the Hammerverse as well. That
Mm-hmm.
Joe is very secretive, whereas here book signing tour. What?
Yeah,
It's
I
completely
was
the other
not a
direction,
fan of
isn't it?
this.
So there's this long line at this book signing, and in that scene where Duke is comforting Lady Jaye because Flint is now missing, she says, "I knew this would happen one day, going public with his identity." And Duke says, "Hey, Colin Powell is public. You don't see him disappearing. Everything's going to be okay." And then in one of the letters pages, the editor mentions that the Joes are now public, or at least this one or two are. I think that is either, I think that's the animus for this story, right? Like when you go public, you put yourself at risk, or you put your loved ones at risk. So either that's the idea, but the story is then too much about the torture and the battle and the intelligence to get this person back, and we need more of a scene where Lady Jaye and Flint are like arguing at home on a day off from G.I. Joe. It's like, hey, honey, I wrote a book. Like, oh yeah, how's your novel going? It's great. But to publish it, I need to go public. It's like, well, let's talk to Duke. Can I go public? Like, yes, no. So either it's the animus for the story, but it got lost, or it is a sort of after the fact explanation. It's like, well, how would someone know to kidnap Flint? Oh, well, what if he's public? Like, oh, okay, well, here's a one-page scene where he should be at a book signing. I don't agree with the decision to have a Joe or all the Joes go public. It can create a lot of really great stories. It doesn't work here. If he's going to write a book, if we're going to do this, this needs to be much more about his life outside of G.I. Joe. And as a comparison, there's an episode from 1985 called Flint's Vacation, where Flint is in his civilian clothes for almost the entire episode, or maybe the entire episode, right? But he does have his beret, so you know it's him, right? So he tells a couple Joes that he's going to go see I think it's his cousin, and then he drives to Pleasant Cove, and he drives in a red convertible, and he sees his cousin Ted, and Ted is like flat. He's like, hello, Flint. And he like recites some platitude about how he has to go to sleep early, and Flint's like, wait, is Cobra here brainwashing people? The episode's a lot of fun. So my I Spy is that Flint's red sports car that's being towed out of a ditch or like the side of the road when the intelligence is tracking down that he is missing. I guess Flint likes hot red cars because he has a red convertible in this issue, and he had a red convertible in this 1985 episode. Nice. But my writing critique is I need more of this other life outside of G.I. Joe and being an author. Otherwise, it feels like too thin of an explanation for how he's discovered.
Yeah.
Okay, I spy a nullifier in the role of a muscle man guy in Destro's team. Sort of oversized, somewhat similar in feeling to Mouton from as recently appeared in G.I. Joe, a real American hero, sort of that oversized powerhouse role. And I went back to look at the file card to see how it tallies up. So the nullifier is the anti-gravity pod pilot, I guess. So you wouldn't think, wasn't a driver? Are they going to be super muscly? But looking at the file card, it says these AGP pilots require a 6-hour weight workout every day simply to maintain their massive physique.
Holy cow.
And high levels of endurance. Such training is necessary in order for them to command a vehicle that can reduce a normal man to a gelatinous pulp during the course of a simple turn. Nullifiers are fed solely on a diet of high-protein gruel that looks like grey mush and tastes like wet cardboard. Their muscles are always sore and their nerves are constantly on edge from the stress. Consequently, a nullifier has the temperament of a rabid pit bull and more likely to bite. A great file card there from Larry, I assume. So yeah, interesting to not up to this point, don't think I'd ever read that file card before, but yeah, interesting to find out more about that character and how it ties to how the character is portrayed here.
I was getting a little bit of a Cobra snake armor vibe from that brief appearance. And Destro says, nullifiers, your armor can take those bullets, so get in there and fight. I spy another 2-3 pages of this pit diagram. So at the end of at the end of all 3 of these issues, facing the final page, the final page of each story, we have another turn it sideways, green and white lines on black, sort of like computer grid diagram of the new G.I. Joe pit. And we were underwhelmed when one of these showed up in a previous episode. It was the motor pool. And I...
Are you any more whelmed by this one?
Now that there are more of them and I can start to, it's like, okay, well, there's a floor with the computers. That's fun. And there's a floor with like the weapons lab and like all the ammo racks. It's like, okay, I'm sort of getting the idea of the pit. And then there's the one with the weight room and the half basketball court, training facilities, training and fitness. No, these don't, they don't wow me. But two, they're also not fun. The presentation is a little cold. Part of what's so great about the original pit is it's so clearly something that couldn't exist, right? Like, it is a fantasy, and yet it's grounded. And that's what G.I. Joe is. And what these 3, now 4, pit level diagrams in the Devil's Due run, it looks like the subject of budget cuts. It's like, well, we can only have a pit that's like 200. it's only the length of one football field, and it's only 4 levels. And I get it. The team is smaller, and previous issues have dealt with.
It's the length of
funding.
three. About
The length of 3 half basketball courts.
Yes.
So it's like no, like, do this and have fun with it. This seems like someone's sort of thinking too hard and realistically about it. It's like, budget cuts. All right, only 10 Joes are here.
Yeah, I agree. It's underwhelming. I'm curious to see, how far. What's that show? 5 levels. So what's going to be in the bottom one. I think this would have worked better if it was drawn. And we talked about this during the last podcast, how in, what was it, issue 1? And I think when the pit was rebuilt in 19, they both had hand-drawn ones, and those were really nice because, you were able to, the artist was able to go in there and put a lot more detail in. And it just looked, this looks like the way you described it when the first level appeared with the cut and paste tanks. It's just, there's not a lot of detail, and the graphically it's underwhelming. So it would have worked better if it was just one big illustration, I think. I'm glad they're trying to flesh it out a little bit, but it needs more. It needs to be more for what it is.
I would rather this than one more ad, and I think it's great that all the letters pages are 2 pages, and one of these issues, the letters page, is 3 pages. So Blaylock, right, for your $3, you're getting a 22-page story. A bunch happens on every page. Lots of characters and locations and movement and action. 2 or 3 letters pages. This diagram. Even though I don't love the story, it's a great value. My final I Spy was, it's after the letters page in issue 17. I realized, and I had sort of forgotten this, the middle of 2003 was a great time to be a G.I. Joe fan, because after the letters page in this first chapter, there's an ad for the company that does the lettering, there's an ad for Devil's Due's website, there are 2 ads for Micronauts, and then there's an ad for the first issue of G.I. Joe versus Transformers. There's an ad for the collection of the Malfunction arc. There's an ad for that month's issue of Frontline, and then there's an ad for the next issue of G.I. Joe, which has the Brereton cover. And, in the last 5-10 years with IDW, many months, we have 3 G.I. Joe comics, certainly 2 G.I. Joe comics a month. But that also happened in 2003 when, there's a main book and a spin-off, and then also this Transformers crossover, and there ended up being a lot of Transformers crossovers. So my I Spy is just a reminder of how much I like to read the actual issue rather than an online version or the collection when I go back to reading something like this because I want to really place myself in the time, see the ads, see the reminders.
Yeah, it gives you a bigger picture.
Very good. Yeah, and then particularly the ads, the letters page as well. It's sort of interesting to get a sense of how people are reacting and responding to some of this stuff as it's coming out.
Quote of the week, 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 quote of the week.
I have a favorite line. It's in the 3rd chapter, issue 19. It's the scene you referred to, Mark, where Flint doubts Destro's intentions, and Gung Ho says, "I don't like it any more than you, but it's the way it had to be. Destro's a lot of things, but dishonest isn't one of them. Let her go." Just a nice encapsulation of the theme of this arc, right? Sort of, the dishonor of torture, honor among thieves, these bad guys who team up, strange bedfellows, the good guys and the bad guys teaming up, trust and mistrust. And like I said earlier, any scene where Destro says or demonstrates that he's a bad guy with a code, which refers back to his file card, right? I love.
And you mentioned Strange Bedfellows. I think that was the name of the issue as well, where Destro and Flint and Lady Jaye team up to rescue his castle from Major Blood. That's right, isn't it?
I'm sure it was, and that was definitely a reference that I intended to make.
Good.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't see Gung Ho or somebody else make a similar remark about Cobra Commander, or definitely not Major Blood. I mean, when you guys were reviewing the most recent ARAH, where Baroness is kind of working against Major Blood, the whole theme through that issue, to me, what I got out of it was Major Blood is always a scumbag. I mean, he's like just, and Duke mentioned this in issue 5. He was like, of all the Cobras, he's like, I just really couldn't stand that guy. I mean, he's, his file card says mercenary, and he is always portrayed as just the biggest dirtbag mercenary that you can pick. And Destro is almost the opposite. So it's, it's nice to see Destro get a little nod here that he's not Major Blood kind of character.
And just fact checking myself there, issue 57, Strange Bedfellows, side by side with Destro. There we go. Very good. Shall we give this one a score in our Yo Joeage?
Yeah, I'll go first. So, because I'm always the grump. I
don't have to go first this time.
I give this a 5. There's a lot going against it, as I have cataloged, but the Devil's Due team is starting to find its wings. I've said this before. I would rather 3 issues with too much happening in it than, like 3 issues worth of material stretched out to 5 or 6 issues. These are a great value. They're exciting. Blaylock has a lot of missteps, but he's trying. And on some previous arcs, I don't think I was willing to give the writing the benefit of the doubt. Here I am. And a lot of that is helped by Badeaux's good artwork that is not always up to the challenge of how much the script is throwing at it, but the story is still, except for a couple of these details like the scalpel and the Flint and Baroness hiding behind like a potted plant and the bad guys not seeing them. The story almost works for me, so 5.
Okay, I'm probably in a relatively similar place. I think I'm going to go 6. Don't know that the story necessarily completely connected with me, but I appreciated the story, what the story was trying to do. It was juggling a lot of plot and a lot of characters. It was very much like a big blockbuster movie at points. And yeah, there was a lot to like, even if there were some relatively minor missteps in terms of some of that clarity, some of the characterization, but all in all, a fun jaunt, I think. And I think sort of generally indicative of the trajectory of the book getting into a place where we've got a consistency in terms of the approach, that the pacing is better, the art is consistently better, we're seeing less obvious issues with things like colouring and lettering, even if at points there are little wonks. But there we go. Over to you, Jay.
All right, this is going to surprise you. Maybe I'm going with a 5. I really was high on Badeaux's first efforts, and that's why I gave the arc that he was on such a high rating. I'm not sure if I might have said 7 on that one or 6.5, but I was very high on his art in that one. And this one, like I said, there's some panels where he did a really good job, but there's also just a lot of it that there's not a lot of definition, in a lot of the characters. There's too many characters and too many panels. The plot, like we said, the plot was good, but there's a lot of scripting problems. I just did not enjoy this one nearly as much as the last couple arcs that we reviewed. So yeah, I'm going with a 5. Even with Tim this time, that's surprises even me.
I suspect if they'd halved the cast of this issue, I would have
tightened it up a little.
I'd come in with a significantly higher score.
Or if it had been 4 issues and not 3.
Yeah, I mean, they just tried to cram a lot in here.
Perhaps, but then we'd have got one more issue of the same story. I wanted to move on to the next thing.
And that's kind of the way I was when I was reading it. That's my biggest thing is like, I want this to be over. As I was reading it, I was thinking, I've got one more issue to go through. I just didn't enjoy it that much.
I thought differently. I thought, man, there's something here. I wish I could like sink my teeth into it. So it's like more about Flint's book, more about
there were things like that should have been fleshed out more.
The Oktober Guard, more about Sergeant Paige Adams, more about Destro investigating these leads of how the Baroness was kidnapped. Like when he finds these one or two informants, there's this guy who's calling him, and then there's someone in a chair that he's shot, and I can't quite tell who that is, or if we're supposed to know who it is, or if it's just like informant. Nothing about that's clever. It's just like sort of righteous anger. Like Destro's gonna get the jerk who took the Baroness. But if it were him, being a detective for a page or two, I think the payoff would be better when he does rescue her, and then the sort of irony that she's the one who rescues herself. She gets herself and Flint out of it. And there could be more clarity with, like how cool and terrible and evil the torturer bad guy is. So my vote would be one more issue and also fewer characters. But I think you could still do a lot of characters, too many characters in 4 issues, just not this many.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like we said, that a lot of that stuff could have been fleshed out a little more. And if it had been, it would have made for a more enjoyable read. It's interesting that you said that Destro did all this work to go in and rescue Baroness, and then in the end, she ended up rescuing herself. Earlier, we talked about Silent Interlude, and when I reread that again earlier, and this is not a new point to anyone, probably, but the whole thing is, Scarlet gets kidnapped, she escapes, and she's out the door. I mean, basically, Snake Eyes doesn't do anything as far as her rescue. And in fact, at the end, she rescues him. And, that's something I think at the time probably that took people, by surprise, or if they noticed at all, really. It's hard to tell. But that established Scarlet as, she's a badass in her own right. But it also kind of made I think it was really strong on Larry's part that Snake Eyes went to rescue her. She didn't really need him to rescue her, and kind of that's, was echoed here in a way. But it's just an interesting point that made me think of when you said that.
Yeah, very good. I think we're all done talking comics. So after we've done talking comics, we talk about toys.
Jay is here with a toy no fear, talking G.I. Joe collectibles. It's a favorite figure, let's pull the trigger, 3 3/4 inch or bigger. Jay.
So what have you got for us today, Jay?
This week I finally got in my Lady Jaye. Have not opened it. I'm going to do that now with everybody listening. You all get to hear the crinkly, rattly package again. And I will try to send you a pic of this, Tim, as I'm, once I get her out of the package. Oh my goodness, she doesn't have any hair. It's actually the lady from Star Trek. Okay, so according to Yojo.com, between 1985 and 2014, there were 11 different versions of Lady Jaye. She made her first appearance in Marvel Comics' G.I. Joe Real American Hero in number 32, and her first appearance in the Sunbow cartoon in the episode titled In the Cobra's Pit, and that was part of the Pyramid of Darkness storyline. Lady Jaye was a fairly significant player in the Marvel Comics continuity. She was involved in the assault on Springfield in issue 50, the Cobra Civil War in issues 73 through 77, tons of others. In the Sunbow cartoon, it was even revealed that Lady Jaye and Destro are far-off distant cousins. Now, interesting, I thought this was an interesting note. She was the second most featured character in the series. The only one to make more appearances was Cobra Commander. She even was in the 2013 film G.I. Joe Retaliation, played by actress Adrienne Palicki, and of course it was recently announced that a television series featuring the character is in development by Amazon Prime. Now, from Lady Jaye's 1985 file card, codename Lady Jaye, her job description, covert operations, primary military specialty intelligence, secondary military specialty personnel clerk, I skipped her name, sorry, file name Allison R. Hart Burnett, birthplace Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, grade E4. Lady Jaye graduated Bryn Mawr and did her graduate work at Trinity College in Dublin, where she acquired the faint Gaelic lilt that adorns her speech. An accomplished actress and mime, as well as a studied linguist, she can easily pass as a native in France, Italy, Poland, Russian, Germany, Afghanistan, Spain, and Portugal. Airborne and Ranger qualified, graduated intelligence school, Fort Hollowbird, qualified expert M16 and reflex crossbow. A quote on the bottom of her file card says, Lady Jaye doesn't go in for that phony wig and rubber mask brand of disguise like those jokers on Mission Impossible. She becomes the subject. Body language, subtle gesture, correct shading of dialect, the right look in the eye. Cloaked and sandaled, she can squat down with a basket of oranges in any Middle Eastern marketplace and bend in perfectly. Now, version 1 of Lady Jaye was released as part of the Real American toy line in 1985. It really defined the look of the character. And it's funny, despite being a fairly simple design, very few of the following variations over the years have differed at all from that formula. The original Lady Jaye wore green, open-collared, short-sleeve shirt with matching pants, brown backpack straps and belt, black gloves and boots. She had a black hat on with a silver circle on the front of it, and short brown hair. She came with a light green backpack, a light gray power javelin, which, it is what it is, and a light green video camera with a strap. Now, the classified figure that I've just taken out of the package here, it basically, like I said, when you look at the different variations, different versions of the character, it surprises me that there really hasn't ever been that much of a change in her look or her design. This one also is pretty much the same. She's got a green shirt on with kind of an open collar, sleeves rolled up. There's some kind of patch on her left shoulder. I'm not sure what that is. It's blue and almost looks like a little white Christmas tree on it, but I'm sure that's not what it's supposed to be. She's got kind of, darker green colored patches on the thighs of her pants, and her boots are kind of almost up to her knees. Now, when I took the figure out of the package, I said, "Oh my goodness, she's bald." The reason for that is because she comes with two different hair pieces. One is just hair, and the other one is like hair with a baseball cap. I haven't pulled either of those out of the package yet. I'm just kind of looking at her without either of them on now. Somebody posted a picture of her like this on Facebook earlier this week, and they said something like, "You didn't tell me she didn't have any hair," and without the hair on, she looks really strange. It's their picture on Facebook. I said it looked like a Lego figure with the little post on the top of her head. And I'm not sure if, this is the way that I would have gone about it. Oh, neat. The hair with the baseball cap on it. The baseball cap has kind of like it has like the star with the little white stripes coming off from it. And that's probably what I'll use on her, because I do like the baseball cap look better. get that on there. Not sure that stays on real well.
It's the good, interesting take on this character. I think is that baseball cap look that is obviously from the V1 figure, but also the interchangeable hair, which is obviously how she appeared in the cartoon, and probably mostly in the comics as well. I always thought it was a bit strange that she was much more known for from the cartoon as having that kind of choppy hair look versus the way that the figure looked. Yeah, that it was so different. She's also got this new classified figure has got an update to her original sort of camera that was that sort of white camera that was slung over her shoulder. It's now a kind of GoPro kind of device that is connected onto her backpack.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull that here out in just a second. I'm trying to send you guys a picture. I'm assuming that you will have this figure too as well, Mark.
I haven't got this one. No, I don't know. I just because most of these figures are going to Thomas. He was less interested in getting a boring old girl. This is his sexism, not mine, so don't judge.
Oh, well, okay. Did you guys get that? I just sent it in our group
Got
chat
it.
on Facebook. Yeah, I don't know. Last episode when we talked about Cover Girl, I said that they seem to have a hard time making women's faces attractive the way that you would want them to be. I didn't like most of the photos that I saw of this figure of her face, and it's a little better once it's out of the package, but
because it kind of looks
still not.
In some of the photos I've seen, it makes her look a little bit like she's kind of got this strange grin or smirk.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not. Let me send you a picture with just the hair. But the figure itself, the sculpting, it's strange. One of the problems I had with a lot of the not necessarily the original line. Like if you look at Scarlet and Baroness from the original line, their arms and their legs were generally a little smaller than the male figures, but not a lot. But then I think once they started to do like with the 25th line and some of those ones, they almost made them too small. And a lot of those figures are really, really thin. Like I have a Baroness where she's in a red wetsuit, and man, her legs and arms are just so small. You feel like you could just snap them in half. They're just really tiny. This one is kind of like that. Like her arms are really thin compared to most of the other figures. And yeah, I'm not loving the face. I don't know. I kind of got it because it's Lady Jaye, and I wanted to get the Flint too, and she'll go up on the shelf with the rest of them. But it's not my favorite figure so far, and I kind of didn't think that it would be from the pictures that I saw. Her backpack though is really cool. Strange though, some of the choices they make with these are just, I don't know why they do it this way. The backpack has a hollowed out center where you can put different attachments that she comes with inside the backpack. But the open part for that is what would go against her back. And you would think that like they would make it like Zartan, where the backpack opens up, from the back, and you could put things in it that way rather than having to take it off from her and put things in. Yeah, her little camera on there, it kind of bends. Let me get her all decked out here, and I'll send you another picture. Whoops.
I never owned the original Lady Jaye figure, and
Really?
Correct. And I have almost always forgotten that she came with a video camera, and I'm now realizing, since her primary specialty is intelligence, and Scoop is a combat journalist or photojournalist, they should go on a mission together, and they should be friends because they both have video cameras.
Scoop could say to Flint, "Your wife, sir, she like photography, sir? Wink, wink. No, just say no more. Yeah, say no more." I wonder. You mentioned that that Lady Jaye was in the cartoons almost more than any other character, which was interesting. Wouldn't have thought that, but I wonder what extent the character and the voicing from Mary McDonald Lewis
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, what kind of imprints that made on a lot of impressionable young boys watching the cartoons. Quite a sort of husky, memorable, good voicing there from
It'll certainly define the character. I mean, I think a lot of those voices in the cartoons, even if you weren't a huge fan of the cartoon, most likely if you watch, if you read the comic book or you liked the property at all, you were going to catch a few of those episodes. And when you were reading the comic, at least for me, it was those voices that kind of informed the way that the characters sounded in your head. So yeah, she always had that voice. Cobra Commander always kind of had the whiny voice. Destro always sounded like Destro, which I never put together as a black guy. I just thought that was a product of him having a metal mask on his face.
It's worth remembering when we think of the 10 or so most popular G.I. Joe characters, Cobra Commander, Destro, Baroness, Flint, Duke, Lady Jaye, Snake Eyes, right? That when these characters were hitting, there were fewer toy lines competing with G.I. Joe.
Right.
And the volume of sales of the few action figure lines that were happening at the time and popular was much higher. Similarly, when the G.I. Joe cartoon premiered, there was not as much competition, right? There was not original animation on cable TV. And in terms of like original weekday animation, there was almost nothing. There's He-Man, and then otherwise Saturday morning is the place to find new animation. And similarly, right, because of the TV ads and how people can find the toys at like every store and some drugstores, every toy store and some drugstores. The comic makes a huge splash, and it's a top subscription seller for Marvel. So I think what's sort of embedded in all of our comments when we like think of Duke, and like your picture of Duke is a still from the cartoon or like the action figure, or we think of Lady Jaye and we like hear that voice, or we think of this, like, it's an overused word, but like her iconic look that hasn't been changed very much, is that when these like 10 or 20 sort of most favorite G.I. Joe characters were first released, it was in such a concentration for the audience. And the brand benefits from that. If you were to say it pessimistically, the brand coasts on that. The brand relies on that 20, 30 years later, right? Like everyone knows like Duke, Cobra Commander, Snake Eyes, Baroness. So when a character like Lady Jaye doesn't show up in the comic, like she doesn't show up in the comic as much as I think she does. And she shows up in the show a lot, but once it's 1986 and there's not a new Lady Jaye action figure to sell, she's not in the show, which is what the show was doing. Like after 2 years, it's like, no, advertise the new toys, right? Don't put in the old toys. And there are memos to that effect, like going back and forth to the animation people. So I feel like sometimes, and I mean this in a good way, this isn't a criticism, Duke and Lady Jaye and these like 5 or 10 or 20 characters, they sort of expand, their reach is further sort of in our memories and through time than maybe their reach actually was at the time. It's like, surely Lady Jaye's been in 50 issues of the Marvel comic. Like, no, I'm just like hearing that voice and seeing her throw a really cool javelin in the cartoon in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's an interesting story behind where the Lady Jaye code name comes from, right, Tim? Can you remember what that is?
So as a preamble, I was always confused what her name is and means, because like I don't actually know what Duke means. Like a Duke is a European military or social rank.
Duke
but
is John Wayne.
It's also John Wayne. Like Snake Eyes is like a thing. I know what that means. Like Cobra Commander is what he does. Destro is like a cool word that also ends up just being his last name. I don't know what a Lady Jaye is. And as a kid, I think my brother and I just assumed it's like Lady Javelin because she throws javelins. But to my knowledge, no story has ever explained what that means. But in March of this year, and this is not to say this is the first time that this information got out there, but the first time I noticed it in March of this year, reacting to that Variety article about a Lady Jaye live action series on Amazon, Larry Hama says that her name is an inside reference, that Joe Bacall, who was one of the two heads at Griffin Bacall, which was the advertising agency for Hasbro, and also Griffin and Bacall owned Sunbow, which was the animation company that was producing the G.I. Joe cartoons. Joe Bacall's wife had a nickname, which was Lady Jaye. And I don't know if that's spelled J or Jaye. And if I had Ron Friedman's autobiography, right? Ron Friedman is best known for writing the animated Transformers the movie. But for G.I. Joe, he's best known as somewhat writing the animated movie, but maybe more importantly, the first 15 episodes. And I believe that this is a character that came first from him for the show and not first from Ron Rudat and the toy development team at Hasbro.
One more note about the figure, and this goes back to kind of what I was saying about how the female figures sometimes are very thin, like their arms and legs are very thin. This figure is, in the pictures that I sent to you guys and pictures that other people have seen online, we'll include them in the videos too. Her arms are very small, and they have this thing where some of them are essentially double jointed, like in the elbows. And hers is like that, but her arms are so small. And sometimes these figures, when you take them first out of the package, there's certain figures that are kind of loose, like in their waists, will kind of wobble. I think the Snake Eyes had an issue with that. But then there's other parts that are just so tight that, like, I'm actually afraid to try to bend her arms, because I feel like if I try to bend her arms too much, that they're gonna break. So that's definitely I think that's a flaw in the construction. You shouldn't ever feel like I'm gonna break this if I try to pose her.
I hear a lot with these 6-inch figures that the experts in the game say, pop them in a glass of
Right.
warm water for a little while and soften the joints up before you start manipulating them too much. And that sort of helps then with...
And I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. You should never have to do that with it. I mean, seriously, you shouldn't have to do that with a new toy. When I got my Viper, I took the goggles out of the package and tried to put those on his head, and they broke immediately. And I got on Facebook and complained about it, and somebody was like, "Oh, you should have boiled it in water." And I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous that you should ever have to do that, or anybody should say that you should have to do that. Think about the little kid whose parents buys him this, and he opens it up and immediately something breaks right off the bat. Well, he should have boiled it. He's 8. It aggravates me. It aggravates me with this line and about fans that say things like that. Sorry, that was inside Jay's mind right there.
Inside Jay's mind.
There we go.
Jay and
Yes.
and Mark, can you guys speak to the package artwork for the classified Lady Jaye?
Hold on just a second. Let me...
So I found the artist's name. This is
Scott Fisher, it says.
yes. This is. Oh, is it credited on the box?
No, I found that on Hasbro's website.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that these things are ever on the box.
No, I don't think they are. It's okay. The way that these packages are made, there's just not a big enough area to really show the artwork. Like, you're looking at the front of the package, and I'm gonna say maybe it's 1/6 of the area that you're looking at.
Yeah, it's just like sort of a tiny space on the kind of bottom right of
so
the box,
you
and
really
then on
can't.
and then on a bit
like,
more on the side.
Yeah, when we were kids, and now looking back at it, we say, oh well, the package artwork was one of the first things that caught our eye. I can't imagine that anybody is going to say that about this line. No. Some of the packaging artwork has been nice, but it's secondary. I mean, you've got this big window. There's the figure. The artwork is on the side, like on one side, and a little bit on the front. It's nice. I mean, it's a good piece. It's better than some of the other ones. But yeah, the way that the box is designed, it doesn't do anything for me as far as highlighting or making that original artwork. It seems to me like if you're going to have different artists do all these different packages, you need to show it off a little bit more. And I don't feel like they do that. And again, no file card.
No,
it's always going to be a problem.
It's got those sort of markers on the box.
Yeah,
you can go
and there's no key.
Then you go on the website. You have to go on the website to see the key.
Ugh. Honestly. Seriously. Don't even get me started, Mark. I'm telling you. It'll be Inside Jay's Mind Part 2.
Yeah, as we all know, and has been established over the course of history since the introduction of the line in 1982, that generally people just didn't care about the file cards. They didn't add a lot to the character and how we so it's only natural they get rid of it. Okay.
I mean, overall, I'm looking at her now. I've got her backpack on and one of the spears or one of the javelins in her hand.
Okay, here we go. We've got abilities.
Figure.
We've got a skull, which means covert ops 3.
Oh, are you looking at it?
We've got arrows, so that's arrow weapons 3. I wonder if that Christmas tree on her arm is meant to be an arrow. Infiltration 3, which is like a shopping basket.
Yeah.
And then disguise 4, which is like a face divided in two, one of which has got like glasses and a hat on, which is a disguise. There we go. We've got a little biography on the website. A master of blending in wherever she goes, Lady Jaye rejects common disguise techniques in favour of total assimilation. She speaks countless languages with a perfect accent and makes subtle changes to her body language and gestures to go undercover in any region around the globe and spy on Cobra operations. Yawn. Okay. Are we done with Lady Jaye? Tim, did you want to say something?
I wonder what percentage of people buying the classified toys keep them in the package such that this packaging is most aimed at them or beneficial to them, because on a shelf or hanging from a wall, you can see the figure in its most of its full glory, and also the artwork and also the logo.
I wouldn't say too many. I think most of what I've seen pictures online, people will have them on a shelf and they kind of put the boxes behind them,
or in a Tupperware bin below.
Yeah, that's where mine are. But they'll have the boxes behind them with the numbers facing out, and that's the opposite side where there's any artwork. So most people, I think, when they are displaying the boxes, unless they've got them turned facing forward, you're not seeing the artwork or anything. But if the figures are out of the box and they've got the boxes on the shelf, I think that most people probably are showing them with the number side facing out. And hers is number 25. I don't care. Like I said, mine are in a big Tupperware box. I don't have the shelf space to put a box up there behind all the figures.
Yeah, it's having numbers though caters for a special kind of OCD where you have, if you're lining those boxes up and you're missing a number, and you wouldn't have otherwise got that figure, but damn it, I need number 25.
Yeah, I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
Scott Fisher makes a nice point. I'm not sure if this is his blog or reprinted from his blog, or if he's guest posting on a website called Muddy Colors, and he says, one glance at that packaging will tell you it was an interesting compositional challenge.
Oh yeah.
We get a small image of Lady Jaye on the front and another long vertical on the side. But here is the thing. Both images had to work together as one 18 by 24 poster image. So Hasbro is giving all these artists a very particular sort of layout.
Yeah, like a template. That this is the bit that's going to be in the front, this is going to be on the side, but we then need surrounding area, which is also going to make for a satisfying whole image when it's shown as a single image. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Lady Jaye. I wonder how many of our audience will be going out and snapping her up on the basis of that discussion. Comment and let us know.
And usually I'll tell people, whether I recommend a figure or not. This one just kind of depends on, like we've talked about, how big of a completist are you, how big of a Lady Jaye fan are you? It's not a bad looking figure. Once I've got her backpack on and the javelin in her hand, the hat I put on instead of just the regular hair, she's standing there. She looks all right. She'll look good on the shelf with the other ones. So I mean, I wouldn't say that I don't recommend it. Probably the only one that I would say I have no interest in getting whatsoever would be the Prophet Director Destro. That one doesn't belong on any shelf. But this one's all right. I wouldn't not recommend it.
Okay.
My 2 cents are, from looking at photos, I like it.
The Prophet Director Destro?
No, sorry. Lady Jaye.
Okay, yeah.
Lady Jaye.
Good.
Ironically,
from
Jay,
the photos.
Prophet Director Destro is the only figure that my brother wanted and has got. So, different strokes for different folks. It's
yeah, I guess.
So, let's be honest though. We've been talking for a while, but this is all just really a preamble for everyone's favourite bit of the show. So let's get straight to that with some Inuenjoe.
This is how the story goes. Attention. At this moment, you are now listening to
Talking Inuenjoe.
If you are offended by words like
Sucking, flesh wound. Willy, Pete. Balls, crystal balls. Hypno shield.
whatever, take the tape out now. This is not a pop album. And by the way, suck my
Grandmother's
mother...
brick in a Prada handbag.
So if you're in the right frame of mind, a lot of G.I. Joe names can sound a little bit dirty. So the purpose of this segment is whether I can get through a list of 5 dirty sounding G.I. Joe names without making the co-hosts titter, which includes the word tit in it. So if without further ado...
Yes, it does.
Oh dear. Without further ado, I'll get started. Okay, I'm checking that the mics are not muted and ready to go. So, green shirt Johnson.
Tim broke first. Wow.
Very good, sir. Very good. Don't like this game.
I can't believe it.
I got in there with a topical one, from a reference to the show. Hooray! Ah, dear. That means that I can keep the rest of them on my list for next time, and this segment continues for longer.
Great, good job, Tim.
Tim's hope. Okay. Very good. So that's us done with talking most of the stuff this episode. So next time on Talking Joe, on the Disavowed show in 2 weeks' time, we will be covering Devil's Due issues 20 and 21, a 2-parter called Closure, which features Mike Zeck on interior art for one of the issues. I'm very excited to read this. Back on the regular show, we will be continuing our coverage of ARAH as it comes out up to the minute. The exciting new arc is Murder by Assassination, with writing from Larry Hama as normal and artist Andrew Griffiths, and featuring a brand new Joe Sherlock. And in between then and everything else, we'll be fitting in some specials like our sketchbook shows. You can find us in all of the usual places, talkingjoe.co.uk. That's talkingjoe, one word. .co.uk is our website, which has the links to all of the places, which include all of the different podcast platforms, the link to our Facebook page where there's always lots of interesting discussion going on, the Twitter page, the Instagram, and contact details, as well as the link to Patreon. So big thanks to all of our backers that include Richard, Sam and Jay, who are getting early access to episodes as well as some exclusive content. Jay, remind us where we can go if we want to see you drawing pictures of things.
Break Room Sketches on Facebook.
Excellent. And Tim, I imagine you probably don't have anything out there in the internet. It's, you just come on here, do your bit and don't have anything else going on outside. Is that correct? Or
if our listeners would like to experience the renovation of my comic book store, which has been going since July of 2020, I have posted weekly 1-minute video updates, and some of them are hilarious, whereas some of them are just informative. You can find those at Instagram Hub Comics, that's HUB, or YouTube/Hub Comics. On YouTube, there's a playlist with the first 17 ads, and then another playlist with the next 15. And in another week or two, I think I can finally make a playlist with the next 15 ads. But separate from my comic book store, you can read all about me and G.I. Joe at A Real American Book, and I'll give you a tease. It won't be ready for a few weeks, but I'm starting to work on, I think it's going to be a 3-part blog post essay about, this is going to sound abstract, a G.I. Joe figure I found in my house.
That is abstract. Yeah, do head on
Interesting.
Head on over to A Real American Book to see all of those wonderful posts, as well as the checking out the Hub Comics updates. So it's a weekly dose of joy when you get to see what's happening in the world of the Hub Comics renovation. But when all is said and done, you can catch us down the road.
Because we've been talking Joe.
And we're all out of Joes.
Laters.
What's the wanker line? See ya, wankers.
See ya, wankers.
See ya, wankers.
I think we should make a T-shirt, or Jay and I, if like the three of us are ever at a convention together, we should sell prints of Zorana saying "See ya, wankers" or something. I don't know.